Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Council on a Tuesday night following Labor Day. It's been a exceptionally good hot weekend, and here we are back to work on the Tuesday. First of all, are there any declarations of conflicts of interest from any of the members on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on August 14th, 2023 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee this evening is Strategic Direction and Development. First item relates to the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative and Ontario Housing Priorities Initiative for 2023 to 24 and 24 to 25, and the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit for 2023 to 2024. I have a motion that report SESS 1223 relating to those initiatives be received for information, and further the council approved the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Housing Priorities Initiative for 2023 to 2024, and the 2024 to 25 investment plan, which aligns with the guidelines and permitted uses of funding for a total of $1,070,700 in provincial Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Housing Priorities Initiative funding for 2023 to 2024, and $1,281,000 for 2024 to 2025. And further, the bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the transfer payment agreement related to the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Housing Priorities Initiative provincial funding, and further that a bylaw be prepared authorizing mayor and clerk to execute the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit Program sign back letter, which amends the original transfer payment agreement. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Gibson, then Councillor Clark.
I just, one question, how often are these transfer payments to us? Are it a 1 year deemed or quarterly? Thank you.
We're going to go right to the expert. Ms. Nielsen.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you very much for your question. This investment plan covers off the 2 fiscal years. The previous investment plan for Cochi Ophir covered 3 years, and I'm not certain on the length of time before then, but in the last 5 years, it's been both a 3-year term and then a 2-year term.
Go ahead.
So it's just given to us at one time, or do they throughout the year give us the transfers? Thank you.
Thank you for the follow-up question. I'm uncertain if it is a one-time payment or if it comes quarterly. I'm not sure if our Director of Treasury may know the answer to that question. It comes quarterly.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, the section COCHI in years 24, 25, we've got earmarked $500,000 plus for future stock. And I was just wondering if what type of supply that we're thinking about, or is it just being earmarked and we'll build on that reserve as we go?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Clark. So the Cochi Capital Investment Plan funding is specific to social housing opportunities to increase our nonprofit social housing within St. Thomas Elgin County. We anticipate that there will be opportunities to do an expansion in that particular area in that fiscal year, however, not in this fiscal year. Those opportunities right now are still under evaluation, and it may be premature for me to provide more details at this time, but I certainly would be happy to when more details are available.
As a supplementary, I just wonder what type of categories do we have? Like, is senior housing a separate category from subsidized housing, or how detailed do the categories get?
Within social housing specifically, senior housing is a separate area of housing that's provided for people above the age of 65. So it would be seen as its own project potentially. However, within all social housing stock, it would include ages 16 and up.
Further questions? Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. I would like to thank the manager for this very well-written report and looking forward to how it's updated along the way and see these categories and I'm looking forward to all of the follow-up questions that we will have at that time. Thank you very much for this report.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you once again for the report. I was just curious how, I mean, everything you look at is tended to go up. But under the repair social housing stock, under the, what is it, Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative, recommend only 205,000. Like, how do you decide cutting it almost in more than in half? How do you do that? Like everything else is pretty well increases, except that went down almost $250,000.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Herbert. So if I'm correct, you're referring to the repair section under Kochi
Yep.
and the decrease
Recommendation,
from 2023 to
205,000.
2024,
Yeah.
25. So it appears to be a decrease mainly because in 2023, 2024, we're recommending a significant increase. So if you compare it to the year before, which is 2023, 2024, it will appear to have gone down by more than half. The reason for that is that this year we don't have capital projects that would align themselves with these particular guidelines to build new stock. And at the same time, we have existing social housing that's in desperate need of repair. And so we have an opportunity this year to make a significant investment in maintaining and repairing our existing stock. And next year you see the reduction because we anticipate an opportunity to expand stock.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. On the report, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next report relates to Lake Margaret Phase 12 transfer of lands. I have a motion that report PD 3223 relating to the transfer of lands in Lake Margaret Phase 12 subdivision be received for information. And further, the council authorize the transfer of Part 1 on Plan 11R 10203 to Henry and Margaret Kielstra and to receive the transfer of Part 1 on Plan 11R 10683 for the extension of the city's multi-use trail system between Hickory Lane and Sauve Avenue. And further, the council authorize staff to undertake all required tasks associated with these transfers. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to an application for temporary removal of part lot control. I have a motion that report PD 3323 relating to the application by Doug Terry Limited for temporary removal of part lot control for semi-detached dwellings on lots 1 to 5, 9, 12, 15, 17, 19 to 26, 28 to 30, and 63 to 67 on registered plan 11M 257 be received for information. And further, that the application by Doug Terry Limited relating to the passing of a bylaw to temporarily remove part lot control for those semi-detached dwellings be approved. And further, council authorized staff to prepare a bylaw pursuant to section 50 sub 7 of the Planning Act, which provides that section 50 sub 5 of the Planning Act relating to part lot control does not apply to semi-detached dwellings on lots 1 to 5, 9, 12, 15, 17, 19 to 26, 28 to 30, and 63 to 67 on registered plan 11M 257. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any further items for this committee, we'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to the 2023 Optimist Club Santa Claus Parade. I have a motion that report ES 4523 relating to the 2023 Optimist Club Santa Claus Parade be received for information. And further, council approve the temporary closing of First Avenue from the north side of Talbot Street to the south side of Redan Street from 3 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. With the east northbound lane available for emergency vehicles. And Talbot Street from the east side of First Avenue to the east side of William Street from 5:30 to 8:30 PM on Saturday, November the 18th, 2023. And further, that access for emergency vehicles be maintained at all times through the closures, and for the parking be restricted between 5 PM and 8:30 PM on both sides of the roadways along the parade route. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Why are you against the Santa Claus parade? No, please go ahead, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. I was pretty excited to see that they're going to have it again this year because Talbot Street construction will be done. It'll
Yeah.
bring people downtown, give them an opportunity to see the businesses and get the flow going. So I was really happy to see that they're going to do this. So anyway, I am for it.
Oh, good. Excellent. Other questions or comments? Seeing that, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any items under this committee, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to accessibility, open house, free transit. I have motion that report ES 5123 relating to the accessibility, open house, free transit be received for information. And further, the council authorize an additional after-hours on-demand bus and waive the transit fare for riders traveling to and from the accessibility open house at Memorial Arena on September the 28th, 2023. Moved by Councillor McCauley, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any further items under this committee, we'll move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to council remuneration overview. I have a motion that report ADM 2323 relating to council remuneration overview be received for information. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the overview? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to declaration of surplus lands for the property at 423 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report PR 2223 relating to the declaration of surplus lands at 423 Talbot Street be received for information. And further, the council declare 423 Talbot Street to be surplus to the city. And further, the council direct administration to undertake administrative actions to dispose of 423 Talbot Street. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless there are any further items from the members, your worship, under this committee. Looks like we have.
Councillor Wookey.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm aware that we're aware that it's about that time of year where departments are submitting budget numbers to Treasury and to city staff. And give me some thought about this. And this is specific to capital budget. And I know we walk a dangerous road between governance and management. We are governance. We have to understand that we're not managers. Having said that, I think we've, people in this council are mature enough and reasonable enough that I'd like to propose something, not on motion, not notice of motion, but just that I'd like to see the capital budget prior to the day we have the budget delivered. And what I mean by that is I'd just like to see it kind of an initial first take on the capital budget to see if there's anything that's, from our perspective, it's evidently missing. And I know that treads a dangerous ground kind of, but I think if once we've got the capital budget in our hands, all we're doing is trading A for B or B for A. There's not much we can do because research hasn't been done on the project and those kind of things. So it's kind of too late. Pursuant to that, I get back to the idea of us projecting capital budgets out further to start with. And there's just my thought. I'm not going to do a notice of motion or anything like that, but I just want to share that with my colleagues that that's something I'd like to see happen. Because I think like the Canadian Senate, we're like a sober second look on things. And I think there might be times where that's of value. Thank you very much.
I've known senators. Thank you, Councillor Wookey. And of course, there is no open budget time here. Any time of the year, we can certainly go to any of our directors and suggest projects that you're thinking of or thoughts of, can you price a project so that by the time we get to the budget time of year, but are you suggesting that we somehow get the whole package even earlier than we do, or?
Thanks, your worship. I'd like to see it, I'd like, as it kind of comes in and gets sorted out, I'd love to see like a really rough first draft is what I'd like to see. And not for us to debate it in council, but to say, okay, is there anything here that we should look at? Because I might say something to one of the directors, we might say something to a director in April, but then we might think that it's in, but then it comes to November and you're like, I thought that was in, but then it might be us who have misunderstood it, not them. And who knows, I'm sure the directors have lots in their mind besides random counselors saying, hey, I got this great idea for a bridge going over the Highway 3 Expressway called the Baldwin Peters Bridge. So I guess not pushing it up, but just a rough first draft is what I'd love to see, ideally. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you. Just a question for me. Did I miss council remuneration? Have you come to that?
It did go by and we voted on it.
Because I was reading the transit one and I wanted to comment on the numeration. Is it too late? Obviously, is it too late?
If you'd like to make a comment, Councillor Herbert, I'll be very tolerant tonight. Say, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much.
But we have already voted on it.
Well, okay, if we're not going to change an opportunity to vote on it, then it was my error. I wanted to comment on it for sure.
Okay.
So I can go ahead.
Give me the opportunity to make the comment.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, so my part about the remuneration was directed on page 20 about mileage.
Mhm.
I was the one that brought that up last time.
Right.
That mileage, I don't think the mileage is fair for the people who are on committees outside the town. When the mileage of $1,000 was brought to council, it was brought years ago, and I'm sure there's some council members here that realize that think or know that the $1,000 was set for mileage within inside the city. We didn't have Woodstock, we didn't have Tillsonburg, we didn't have Chatham. So the people on those boards, even Kettle Creek or Catfish, who have to travel all the time, those boards are all willing to give you money for mileage, for gas, remuneration for gas. And now we see here, if we get mileage from them, we have to turn it in and it takes out of our stipend. There just has to be something different than mileage within the city and mileage when you travel. We even travel to London now. If you're on the water board, you travel to London. And yet we're putting money out of our pocket to fill our gas tanks up. With that mileage of $1,000, I think I understand, was designed for within the city years ago. It's never incorporated any change with it. So that was my comment I wanted to make. I don't think that's right. That if they want to give you the board you're on, if they want to reimburse you money for gas, for mileage, then you should be able to fill your tank up with it, not have to. I mean, if I travel to Woodstock 5 times and Chatham 5 times, I've spent probably $500 on gas and still trying to travel around the city with my enumeration of $1,000. So that was a comment. I apologize for not making it. I just got by me and it's my fault, but that's the point I wanted to make, that I don't think that part is correct, that we're all getting $1,000 for the city. And then when you have to travel outside the city, that you're paying extra out of your pocket to go. So that's my comment. So I don't know if it can be opened up again. I don't know.
We are council. We can do this at any time, another time in the year. We have to look at council remuneration in other ways at least once during each term of council. So, but I would suggest the report tonight was to talk about stipends from committees and we have passed it. I don't see a great deal of other comment here to help change the work we did tonight. So I
That's
thank
fine.
you
If
for your
somebody
input.
wanted to comment, it would be good, but if they don't, that's fine too.
Okay. Great. Next item.
Your worship, I'm not sure if we had concluded the conversation with Councillor Wookie. Okay, and if there's any further
Yeah,
items?
his was for more input, but I'll go to Councillor Clark on that topic or the next one.
The next one.
Okay, let's do the next one.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the news recently, there's been a number of jurisdictions who've incorporated strong mayor powers. And I was just wondering whether or not we were going to have any of that discussion and whether or not that enhances our housing strategy or whether it doesn't. And I'm just wondering if any of yourself or the counselors who had been at AMO had a little bit more information for us on that topic.
Well, I guess I'll answer it from a mayor's perspective. We've not yet been given the opportunity for that set of powers. I've explained to just about every councillor I've been with and anybody who asked me about it. We have a strong council. The strong mayor's powers are set aside for councils that perhaps can't always work together and the cooperation isn't as good as ours. But so it will be a while, I think, before St. Thomas would be offered strong mayor's powers. And then after that, I'm sorry, I'm still a mayor that thinks you work well with your council and get your work done that way. And if you can't, then it's maybe not more powers you need. It's a better cooperative effort from yourself. And so that's what we're looking at.
Supplementary, I wasn't necessarily in favor of it. I was just
Right.
wondering whether or not we were being disadvantaged by the province in terms of dollars flowing
Right.
because we didn't have a target and didn't have strong mayors, or are we not being disadvantaged?
Well, as those that were with us at AMO this year and Roma last and a number of others, we have a pretty good communicative work towards the Housing and Municipal Affairs Minister, and the new one appointed today is a good old friend of mine from Parliament days past, and our own Rob Flack, the Member of Parliament for Elgin Middlesex London, is now Associate Minister of Housing for affordability and modular homes or something like that. I expect that Rob and I both share phone numbers with each other still pretty well, and you all do too. And so I think we're in pretty good shape. The Strong Mayors Act included a number of other cities of 50,000 or greater, and I recognize St. Thomas is growing towards that end. Look, I plan on sharing my targets every year like we did here at the start of this year and going forward, and let the province know what the city of St. Thomas's targets are regardless. And then as we hit them or beat them or go quite a bit past them, they'll understand we're doing as well or better than most communities out there. But please, I don't need more power. I need more councillors like this.
Your worship, seeing nothing further from the members, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole as recorded in the minutes of this date be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
We now move into reports of committees. First report relates to heritage alteration permit for the property at 345 to 347 Talbot Street. I have motion that report MHC 1323 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 345 to 347 Talbot Street be received for information, and further council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 345 to 347 Talbot Street. Sorry, there was a typo in the report. It should be 345 to 347 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 1123, subject to the following. A, the second story windows be capped. B, complete restoration of the parapet is addressed. A move by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
No further reports. We now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for proclamation and flag raising from the Lord Elgin number 41 branch of the Royal Canadian Legion. I have a motion that the Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim September 18th to 24th, 2023 as Legion Week in the City of St. Thomas, And further, that the Legion Week flag be flown at City Hall from September 19th to 24th, 2023. And further, that the flag raising ceremony be held at City Hall on September 19th, 2023. And further, that a poppy ceremony be held at Veterans Memorial Gardens on October 26th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert. Your worship, just for the members' information, the special events application for the parade and ceremony on Remembrance Day has been forwarded to the Special Events Committee.
Okay. Questions or comments on the request? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is notice received from Hydro One of a notice of commencement for the Centennial Transformer Station and Line Project Class Environmental Assessment. Next item is letter received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the Building Faster Fund to assist municipalities in meeting provincial housing targets. Next item is a letter received from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding amendments to the Environmental Assessment Act. Next item is a letter received from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry regarding amendments to the Aggregate Resources Act. Last item under petitions is a letter received from the Ministry of Transportation thanking Mayor Preston for his participation on a Southwestern Ontario Transportation Task Force. Your worship, unless any members have petitions or communications.
Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. I have an item of communication and I will ask Director Bray if he could please fill us in on what is happening on Friday, September the 8th. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Preston. Thank you, Councillor Baldwin Sands. We're holding a commemorative for Queen Elizabeth II. It's the 1-year anniversary of her death. Notices have been put on social media and on the website. The MPP, MPs, and other people have been invited to speak to the Queen and her contributions to Canada and beyond. It's being held across the street at Westlake Evans Park on Friday at 10 o'clock.
Super. Thanks, Councillor Baldwin Sands, for letting us talk about it. Another one.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the tree itself?
Oh, yes. Through the park construction, we had an English oak planted there in her honor. So part of this will be dedicating the tree. Forgot about the tree.
Go ahead.
Just a comment, and I think the English oak is so appropriate because in England itself, there are oaks that are still there from the time of William the Conqueror. So it's very fitting
Yeah.
that that lasting tribute be contributed to the memory of the Queen. And thank you very much for your choice.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other new business? Well, I'd like to point out the trophy out in front here. We, every year at the Wardens Golf Tournament, the County of Elgin Wardens Golf Tournament, we have a putt off between the mayor of St. Thomas and the warden. I've never showed this trophy off before because it is the first time I actually out putted the warden. And so I couldn't let the day pass without at least displaying the trophy here in the St. Thomas Chambers. I'm certain other mayors from St. Thomas were far more proficient at winning the putting contest. I have not been. So happy to have this year the bragging rights to the city of St. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there's any items of unfinished or new business coming from council, and seeing none, we'll move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 5th day of September, 2023.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Smart AMS Inc. This relates to an amending agreement for the former World War II hangar at the St. Thomas Municipal Airport.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
The third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. This relates to the transfer payment agreement for the Canada Ontario Community Housing Initiative, Ontario Housing Priorities Initiative.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Minister of Finance. This relates to a signed back letter for the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit.
Question or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I rise and report the passing of 4 bylaws.
Great.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 4 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business is public notice. 2 notices this evening. The first is that council intends to hold a special meeting tomorrow on September the 12th, 2023 at 5 p.m. in the Queso Station, Farley Room to discuss the new St. Thomas strategic plan. Sorry, next week, Tuesday, September the 12th. Thank you.
It'll seem like tomorrow.
The second notice relates to the fact that an administration intends to introduce a report at the September 18th, 2023 council meeting requesting approval of an unbudgeted capital expenditure relating to an update of the city's transportation master plan. Next order of business is notices of motion.
Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. The ability to access charging at home is a major deciding factor in an EV purchase. St. Thomas will become home to Canada's major development of the EV battery industry, with the VW factory being built. Currently, there are no regulations in Canada's National Building Code governing the topic of charging at home. Provinces and territories are free to create bylaws and building codes, but have left the responsibility to municipalities. To date, the City of St. Thomas does not have a bylaw to ensure new housing stock, including multi-residential units, have charging options in place. EV vehicles are often more efficient to operate, have a lower repair cost than ICE vehicles, and therefore can contribute to housing affordability in an indirect manner. In Ontario, municipalities such as Cambridge, Hamilton, Mississauga, Toronto, Waterloo, Whitby, and Ajax are municipalities that currently have these bylaws in place. I respectfully request that St. Thomas City Council request a bylaw from city staff to be introduced at an upcoming meeting, and I will present this formal request at an upcoming City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, your worship, there are no further items. However, there is a need to move into closed session. I have motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending acquisition of land, a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, a matter of commercial or financial information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, and 2 personal matters about identifiable individuals. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Before we vote, I will say what I usually do. We're about to move into closed session. The council meeting is ending for today from the open session point of view. If we need to come back into open session, we will in order to adjourn our meeting. Yes, Councillor Clark?
Before we close, I just want a clarification. Was Councillor Baldwin Sands, was that a notice of motion at this time or do we have to do anything with that?
It was a request to go to staff to prepare a motion. Am I correct? So then it would come back to us as a motion in which we would
Okay,
then
all right.
discuss and vote on.
Thank you.
At least that's how I interpret it. I'm glad you helped me because I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, so where we are on closed session is we're about to vote to go into closed. For those of you watching at home, on the streaming function, we will not be coming back live. We'll be closing the meeting over. So for all in favor of going to closed session. Any opposed? Carried. We are heading there.